On behalf of both the Democrat and Republican committees, in the spirit that they bring to this town every year, they have decided to have this candidates forum. They've been having it for many years. It's a good thing. It gives the voters a chance to see what the candidates look for and what they're after, and it's a great thing. So I'd like to thank Kathy DePasqua-Egan, who's the chairman of the Democratic Town Committee, and Michelle Mills, who's the chairman of the Republican Town Committee, for co-sponsoring this event. It's a great event, and it gives everybody a chance, as I said, to see what the candidates are doing. So thank them both. They're both here. If you could just hold your hand up so they know who you are. All right, before we get started, as always, let's stand for a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to start at the bottom of the ballot and work our way to the top of the ballot. It has been done before that way, so we're going to continue in that spirit. I have one statement to read. When we get to that office, that person couldn't be here. This year, we're going to have a time card situation going on, so the candidates know when they're making, the candidates can make a 1 to 3 minute opening statement and a 1 to 3 minute closing statement. Marianne Damasio was so gracious as to come, and she's going to keep time, so not one candidate is overflowing onto the other. So as soon as you take the floor, when you get to 2.5 minutes, if you're going that long, you don't have to, but if you're going that long, she's going to hold up the yellow. The yellow, whatever color that is going to tell you that you have 30 seconds to close. The red means please stop talking. When she holds up the red, if you don't stop talking, I'll have to intervene, and we don't want to do that. I'd like to remind everyone also, all the people that are running, and I'd like to thank all the current candidates. This is a volunteer job, no matter what office you're running for in this town, and it's, as plenty of people have said, it's the true form of democracy to have candidates who run who don't get paid. They're doing the very best that they can. They're all good people. I'd like you to ask questions that all 4 candidates may be able to answer, so I can go from one to the other when we get to that particular part. I understand that it's going to happen. I'm hoping it happens that way. I hope everybody keeps a cool head. Like I said, I've seen many, many candidates for many, many boards come and go, and they always have the best interest of the town, and I think all of these candidates too. So we want to thank them, give them a round of applause. They're non-paid people that are coming here. Does anyone have any questions for me as what you expect out of me or what you think this is going to happen? Okay, seeing none. The first office up is Water Commissioners. It's a 1-year term. You can't vote for more than 2, and we have 2 candidates, Mr. Garvey and Dennis O'Connell. Are either one of you here? Seeing none, good luck to those 2. There are only 2 running, and there's 2 spots, so I think they're both going to get elected. The next one up is vote for 1, Michael Chernicki. Is he here? Same thing, there's 1 person running. He's the incumbent. He's a candidate for re-election. That's for Water Commissioner. Next one up is Whitman Hanson Regional School Committee, pre-K to 12. Robbie O'Brien's the only candidate running. He did send a statement. I'll read it to you. He's a candidate. My name is Robert O'Brien. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend today because of my duties at the fire department. I've been a member of the Whitman Hanson Regional School Committee for 6 years. I've lived in Hanson for 44 years with my wife, Deb, and I have a son, Christopher, who is in the 8th grade and will be a freshman at Whitman Hanson next year. We are currently adopting 3 children. Chloe, who is in kindergarten, Nathan, who is in 2nd grade, they are both at McQuon, and their brother, Armando, who will be attending 4th grade at Indian Head School next year. In my next term, there are some items I'm hoping to accomplish. First is the closing of McQuon School. I'm committed to making this an open process and making sure that parents, students, and staff are kept informed as to what's going on in a timely fashion, and there's plenty of opportunities for public input and discussion to make this a smooth transaction for all. I would like to make the budget process easier for everyone to understand. We have tried a few times to have a budget subcommittee. At our last meeting, the Whitman and Hanson selectmen have committed to placing a member from their board and a member from the finance committee onto this committee, so hopefully the budget process will be more transparent and easily understood by anyone who has any questions. I always try and make decisions that are mutually beneficial for students in the town of Hanson, which is not always easy. If anyone ever has any questions or concerns, I ask that you please reach out to me, and I will do the best to help and address them. I would like to thank the residents of Hanson for their continued support. Thank you, Rob O'Brien. Unfortunately, he's not here. So, the next one up is the trustee of the public library. There are two. Both of these candidates are up for re-election. Joanne Estes and Jennifer Hickey are either one here. Good luck to both of them. They're both up. Unless we have someone in the crowd, and I'd love to see that happen, we're looking for a trustee of Memorial Field. No one has come forward to do it, and they're looking for two. So, at this particular juncture, just the process so anyone might want to become, write-in vote is your only choice. If anyone wants to be a trustee of Memorial Field on May 20th, write in your name, and you may become a trustee of Memorial Field. The next up is Constable for 1 year, Steve Lyons. He's the only person running. Steve, are you here? Again, only person running. Next one up, Planning Board. There is a race. We have two people running. I believe they're both new. Joseph Gamache and Kurt M. Tavares, two, the second. Either one here? Okay, it just doesn't say. Kurt, would you like to come up and make a statement? Oh, okay, Joe, I'm sorry. Would you like to come up and make a statement? It didn't say on here, Kathy, so I assume they were both new. Is somebody up? Are you up for re-election? Any way you'd like. Have a seat.
I'll sit right next to you.
There you go.
Hi, my name is Joe Gamache. I've served on the planning board in the past. I've had 45 years in construction, some of it in commercial, some in residential, quite a bit of road construction and development. And I think with my experience, it would be helpful to the town. I feel as though I was helpful in the past, and some of you here know me and probably can attest to that. If you have any questions, I'd answer whatever I can for you. And I don't know who the other candidate is running, and but I'd like to say thank you for running. It's a good opportunity, and if it happens that someone else is elected into this position, I'd be gladly to come alongside and help out the board and continue.
Any questions for this gentleman? Good luck. Next up is Cemetery Commissioner. Vote for one. This candidate is up for re-election, Richard Duhane. He's not here today. Good luck to him. Also, we have one candidate. He is up for re-election, Mr. Amato, Gilbert Amato. Gil, you here? He's the only one running. Good luck to Gil. Next up is Assessor. Vote for one. She is also a candidate for re-election, Patricia O'Kane. Good luck to her. Okay, the next one up is Selectman for 3 years, and we have 4 candidates for 2 seats. Mr. Scott is a candidate for re-election. Mr. Egan, Ms. Laura Fitzgerald Kemet, and James Hickey are all newcomers. So come on up. It's good to see everyone here. Come on up and have a seat, Bill. Yeah, come on up. Okay, thank you all for running. As you know, probably everybody's seen all the signs around town. And again, this is the purest form of democracy we have. We vote. It's great that we have 4 candidates for 2 seats. There's been years when there's been 1 candidate for 1 seat, or somebody is running, or no one wants to run. So it's great that we have 4 enthusiastic people that want to be on the Board of Selectmen. So I congratulate the four of them for running, no matter how it turns out. They're here, they're doing their thing, they're trying to do what's best for the town of Hanson, and I applaud that. So congratulations to all four. In the spirit of ladies before gentlemen, I'm going to ask Laura to please do her opening statement. You have 1 to 3 minutes.
Okay, great, thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Republican Town Committee and the Democratic Town Committee for organizing today's forum, Mr. Hayes for attempting to moderate what's probably going to be like herding cats, and also I'd like to thank Mr. Egan, Mr. Hickey, and Mr. Scott for volunteering to serve. I'm running for the Board of Selectmen because I think the time has come to recognize that the same old isn't going to work anymore. We need to change the way that we've been doing things, and I feel confident that because of my experience and skills that I bring to the table, I can help to do that. Socrates said, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy on not fighting the old, but on building the new. And I really like that quote because it embodies really what I'm all about and what I'm running on. I'm not interested in fanning the flames of past divisions or in pointing fingers about past decisions. I'm interested in finding common ground and on working on building a community where all of our citizens feel respected and represented. My only agenda is to do what is best for Hanson. Some of you may know me as the chair of community preservation or someone who organizes a lot of fundraisers around town, but you may not know much more about me. My husband John and I have been married for 32 years, and over 20 years ago we moved to Hanson to raise our children. I have been in the financial services industry for over 30 years in a variety of management positions. I currently lead our retirement plan regulatory compliance group in the company that I work for. I've got extensive experience in long-term strategic planning and managing people, balancing a budget, looking for cost savings, and improving efficiency. And I believe that these are all important skills for a selectman to have. I also believe it's critical for a selectman to be able to collaborate, plan, and lead. And as someone who's been actively engaged in our community, I've consistently demonstrated these skills with diverse groups of people to achieve a common goal. For instance, I co-founded the Hanson Business Network. As the chair of the Community Preservation Committee, I've initiated and we just completed the development of a long-term strategic plan that will be used as a roadmap for future community preservation spending. As the Hanson Food Pantry board member, I developed and implemented a short-term and long-term fundraising plan to ensure their financial health. And as the president of Panther Education Trust, I revitalized that organization by recruiting new members and establishing several core fundraising initiatives. When you cast your vote on May 20th, I would encourage you to vote for the candidates who have demonstrated an understanding of how town government works and to have the skills that are needed to do this important job. I am asking for your vote because through my professional experience and my community involvement, I believe that I have demonstrated that I have those skills. Thank you.
Mr. Hickey.
I believe Hanson's strength is in its small-town sense of community. We are a community of 10,000 neighbors, volunteers, friends, fellow citizens. I believe those values we share as a small-town community make us different, make us special, make us strong. We need to get back to those small-town values in small-town ways. They are our identity, who we are at heart, why we chose to live here. Of course, we encourage progress, but progress that lines up with the community spirit that is Hanson. Those people we see at Shaw's, at ferries, at the Memorial Day Parade, or even the softball field. Those people we wave to when we leave to work. Those are the people at Hanson. Those are the people I want to listen to, talk to, and learn from, and most importantly, serve. My name is Jim Hickey, and I would like to be your voice on Hanson's Board of Selectmen. Thank you.
Mr. Egan.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'd like to thank both the Hanson Republican and the Hanson Democratic Town Committees as well as you folks who have gathered here this afternoon so that we might express some thoughts regarding the upcoming town elections. I'm a retired English teacher who spent 34 years at Silver Lake Regional School District developing middle school kids into lifelong learners, or at least I hope so, as well as developing leadership skills as the Teachers Association president and negotiator. During my professional career, I have served on several school improvement councils, faculty senates, and curriculum development committees. I am familiar with working on a team to get things done. My family and I came to Hanson in 1973. All 7 of my children attended Whitman Hanson schools. Currently, I reside with my wife Kathy in a post and beam home I built myself over an extended period of time. I have been involved in both issue and candidate campaigns for several years, running for state rep in 1988 and again in 1990. I served as one of your selectmen for 3 terms, acting as chairman for nearly half of that time. Some of the issues which I think are important. A basic principle of ownership is the upkeep and maintenance of one's properties. Hanson owns several buildings, structures, and facilities. A coherent, comprehensive, and articulate program of maintenance is needed to protect our town-owned structures and facilities and to save some money. As responsible citizens, we all need to better understand how funding for our future and current demands can be met. We must support the adjustments and the commitments that are necessary to create the collective vision we hold on the future Hanson. I agree with the United States Supreme Court in its historic and unanimous 1954 decision, famous Brown versus Board of Education. The quote that I'm interested in, I quote here, "The most important function of state and local governments is education. It is doubtful that any child be reasonably expected to succeed in life if he is denied the opportunity of education." That's the end of the quote. I would like to help change the tone and the tenor of our political discourse here in town. Government, especially local government, should be a coming together of all people to make our common goals, needs, and desires reality. It is sometimes difficult to remember that there is much more that unites us than separates us. But we must work in that direction. We must foster a return to civility and respect for one another. And I would like to assist in that process as your selectman. Thank you.
Mr. Scott?
Thank you. My name is William Bill Scott, people call me. 60-plus year resident of the town of Hanson. And, you know, we hear a lot of history over the years. I started in grammar school here in Hanson at the town hall, just above where we're sitting, 4th and 5th grade. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at Indian Head School. So long history with the town of Hanson. Whitman High School. I played football for 4 years, one of the 2 that I know of that lettered 4 years at varsity football. I received a football scholarship to the University in Denver, Colorado, which I attended. After coming back, I met my wife, and we were high school, went to high school together, but we started dating and married. But as we move forward, I decided a police career might be something that I'd be interested in. So after 30-plus years of police work, I started in Hanson. We worked right here in the town hall as a police station. We went on and on. And, you know, there's quite a lengthy time there, and then I went to the Hanover Police Department. I rose through the ranks there. Sergeant for 10 years, lieutenant for a year and a half, court prosecutor for 5 years full-time, and then and acting chief, and then later on I made police chief. I was in the town of Halifax. I retired from Halifax. I was chief of security, South Shore Plaza in Braintree, a year and a half. Then I went to work for a major distributor in the police equipment and firearms-related business. So I did that for 10 years. So all during that time, I had many opportunities to work with municipalities and do presentations to them and all that. I was involved in collective bargaining, leadership. I own my own business. I've started a couple of businesses very successfully and sold one because they decided to stay in police work. So I've moved on to that, and then later on, I now have a cranberry. I'm a Cape Cod cranberry grower, ocean spray grower, and So I'm very much involved in all that. And I think I bring that experience to the board. I'm completing the term of 3 years as a Board of Selectmen. I think that we have done a lot in the town. And I think it's healthy for a Board of Selectmen not to agree at times. We want to agree on our goals, not necessarily how to get there. If it's all mamby-pamby, let's all vote down the path of, go along to get along. I don't go along with that. I vote my conscience. I vote what I think is best for the townspeople in Ham. And I come to you today with no notes or any teleprompters, and I'd like to thank you to consider me for re-election.
Okay, as I said earlier, you've heard from 4 candidates now on their opening statement. I'm going to take questions. What I'd like to do is take questions for each candidate one at a time, so not one specific candidate is holding the whole floor. Is there any gray area in that? Does anybody, in other words, we'll take a question for Mr. Egan, we'll say, and then we'll take, when that's answered by all 4, we'll take a question for Mrs. Kemet, vice versa. I'm keeping order, so I'm going to try to keep it as easy and quick as possible. The answers are 2 minutes. The answers are 2 minutes, and in 2 minutes, at a minute and a half, she'll be telling you you've got 30 seconds left. And then you'll be going, Kathy?
State your name and address first.
Yeah, and if you could please state your name and address, so everyone knows who you are. Joe?
But you would like to have the questions worded so that all candidates could answer possibly?
Yes. In other words, what I'm trying to do is there's a lot of issues in the town of Hanson. I think this forum is for people to understand how the candidates might vote on the issues in the town of Hanson or where they stand in the town of Hanson. There's several things that are going on that we all know. I think everybody in this room that I've seen at town meeting or I've seen at a selectmen's meeting, so there's nobody here that isn't well informed, I don't think. I don't think we want to get into any negative personal things that are not good for this town. I don't think it's good for anybody. We'll judge that as we go along. And again, these 4 people that are sitting up here are all volunteers, no matter whether they get elected or they don't get elected to this board. They're here because they're trying to be the best for the town of Hanson, and I think that earns them some respect. So, Mr. Scott went last in opening statements. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Scott? Mr. Campbell?
Do this, you want me to go to the podium?
Yes, please.
Sure. I'm gonna try to word this so it's for everybody.
Is the podium mic working, Mr. O'Sullivan?
Wait a minute. Yes. No, now it is.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Joe Campbell, 150 Woodbine Ave. I'd like to preface my question and my statement to say thank you to all of you for running. So myself as an elected official, I've learned a lot. And I appreciate the fact that we actually do have people that actually get up in town to run for something. So I'd like to say thank you personally. For Mr. Scott and for all members of the board, of the forum, in a recent express announcement for your campaign, Mr. Scott, you mentioned that you had taken on the leadership role for chairing the Highway Committee, which is charged with exploring the feasibility and having the Highway Department relocated from the former light control building area down off of Hawks Avenue. At the town meeting, the project was originally estimated to start at a $1.5 million cost. Now it's gone to $4.5 million, almost triple the amount. At a recent Board of Selectmen meeting, the Highway Committee Chair stated that the new price tag will include the tear down of the current highway barn. But my research has found that due diligence may not have been done when estimating the cost to the taxpayers for the project, and that the price tag to relocate the highway and tear down and clean up the current highway barn doesn't include environmental cleanup engineering studies that are definitely going to be needed. In fact, the Highway Committee hasn't commissioned any study of these properties yet, as suggested in the express that we could build a sports field on an area that hasn't had a study completed on it yet. Are the candidates that are aware that there's a significant landfill on the property? Are they aware that there is no tight tank under the
Mr.
existing
Campbell,
building?
excuse me.
Sure.
Please keep this to questions only and
Sure.
not, you're making more of a statement. I'm not
Sure.
picking on you, Joe, but
No problem.
if I were
So
Mr.
here's-
Scott or any one of these candidates,
No, here's the question for the candidates. So,
Okay.
are the candidates aware that there's a significant landfill on the site? Are they aware that there's no tight tank under the current barn? and that over 40 years, there's definitely going to be something that's going to be discovered. Moving forward, what better procedures and leadership transparency can we expect on the possible major undertaking that the town is going to face if this was to move? Those are my questions. Thank you.
That was many questions.
That's
I can address
exactly,
them.
Joe, there was a lot of questions.
Sure.
To start off with, the original owners down there were Wheeler Reflector that some of us are familiar with. It evolved, it being, I think it was pretty much the same company, into Light Control. A huge lighting company that's international named Hubble purchased that whole property, and they started to review the Light Control property, and because it wasn't up to snuff for modern type of things, they decided that they would look into tearing that down and moving all of their operation to a different location. In doing so, they discovered they had two metal buildings that were fairly late number of years. They were fairly new buildings. And as the conversations went on, they were going to originally turn those buildings over to the possibly a marijuana growing company. And then as they discussed that, marijuana had not been legalized at the time, and they really didn't want to go there. So they offered it through Mr. Brown and Chief Thompson, the highway surveyor, and Chief Thompson from the fire, whether the town might be interested in it. So that started a kickoff as far as a committee. We had an original building, it was not to do a building, but we started that, and I did a presentation 3 years at the town meeting, and the townspeople voted to accept a gift of that property from the Hubble Company to the town of Hanson. Later on, we formed a building committee, which I'm on. I am chairman of it, and that's why it's indicated I took a leadership role in that. We're getting tremendous feedback from the Hubble Company. They're spending $4 to $5 million on the cleanup down there, and have done so. I can go on and on probably for an hour about what's going on down there. We are moving forward, and the environmental concerns are all being addressed by DEP, Army Corps of Engineers. It's not just a he said, she said type of thing, and the cleanup. Cleanup up at the old facility, we're told by the engineers they can clean that facility and cap it, and it would be safe for young people. But all sorts of studies will be done to assure that that is a safe site, and I'm talking about the old site. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott, and not picking on you, Joe, at all. That question had many, many answers, and I
focus
was
of the
gonna
question
allow
is for
Mr.
the old
Scott to
site.
continue on, because it was multiple type questions, so it's great that it came out in the very beginning. Please don't ask questions that are that long, because I agree with Mr. Scott, there was multiple questions in there, and I think if I had to answer that, I'd be saying, I need 10 minutes, so. Thanks, Bill, I appreciate your answer. Mr. Egan?
Does your question refer to the old site?
Correct.
That's what I thought.
Focus on the old site.
Right,
Nothing else.
right, now I understand what
Thank
you're
you.
trying to get at. I'm aware that there are some problems, environmental problems on the old site. We haven't done the appropriate research to find out what is wrong or what could take place or what needs to take place to make it usable for any other purpose. I think that's probably my short answer to your question. The whole issue of the highway department and its facility and what's being needed, I know when Mr. Scott made his presentation to the town meeting, the question came up as to how much it would cost to prepare the old site or to update the old site, I guess is the best way to go. And it was significantly less than the price tag that we're looking at in terms of this new site. I'm not sure yet, and I don't think the town has expressed its opinion yet on what it really wants to do. What the town has decided to do is accept the land. What we do with that land is still an unanswered question. There are no decisions on that issue yet. And I think as the discussion continues and more information becomes available, we might make more sense later in terms of making that determination.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Egan. Mr. Hickey?
Joe, my answer is going to be quite a bit shorter than the question. You gave two figures, 1.2, I believe, and then 4.5. And that 4.5 could easily turn into 6 million. I think without any type of study or research or an engineering plan being done, that as a small town, we can't take the risk right now of a $4.5 million project turning into a 6 or 7. And I mean, on my short answer, I would not want to get involved with that something right now until we have all the information come in. I just think it's too big of a risk.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
Okay, there were so many questions that my mind is like, I don't even know where to begin. But,
Please
okay,
no.
but I would say, I am concerned that it's gotten to 4.5 million. Look, it's up to the voters whether they think that this has got legs and they want to, pursue it. But what I am concerned with is making sure that we've got full transparency. So when the decision is brought to the voters, we've got a full comprehensive price tag of what it's going to cost to rehabilitate that what now we'll refer to as light control, and then to tear down and clean up environmentally what we will now refer to as the existing highway barn. And I think you said no tight tank, a significant landfill. They've been there since 1977. Even if they've been fantastic stewards over there of the land, there's bound to be some kind of contamination in 40-plus years of use. And so there'll probably be some environmental costs. So I am hoping that before the Highway Committee would bring this to the taxpayers, that they would do the due diligence and hire some environmental engineering firm to take a look at what those costs are, add that with the costs that they currently have, come up with, and present a full comprehensive package to the taxpayers about what it's going to cost, soup to nuts.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Okay, the next question, and again, I'm trying to go by orders. I'm writing all this down because I'm going by the numbers. The next question would be for Mr. Egan.
I just have a general question of everyone. You're just saying who's starting first, or?
No, I'm going numbers-wise.
I know, but can I ask a general question for everyone?
It is for everyone.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Mary Ann Damasio. I'm at 552 Indian Head Street, and I'm on the Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee. And I would just like to hear from each of the candidates about what uses you would encourage up at Plymouth County Hospital, and what kind of things you would discourage.
Mr. Egan?
I think it has become clearer as to what most of the townspeople that we come in contact with who have bothered to come out and voice their opinion, that they'd really like to see some sort of a public park kind of a situation there. I think that's a very good idea. We can't develop that area in terms of housing because of the topography, but more importantly, the buildup of the soil isn't conducive to a septic system. So you can run into that problem with housing or any large-scale kind of development. So the land is essentially as you see it. It would make an excellent park, I think. I think, a picnic area, a playground, a gazebo kind of pavilion thing perhaps for some entertainment in the summertime, walking trails, that kind of thing, a passive area, would be, I think, the best use of that property, and I would like to go in that direction.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Higgins?
Mary Ann, great question, because we don't even agree in my own house what should be done with that land. And it really isn't an easy answer, because I said right away, sell it all to a developer. Let Hanson get the money, and let the developer do with what they want to do with it. Michelle wants the parks and the trails. And I tried to come up with a happy medium. And then for me, and I've asked this question before, we've had a couple of meet and greets, and I've asked anyone that's asked me that question, what would you like to see done with the land? Because it doesn't really matter what I think. I'm more interested in what you think we should do with the land, and I know you've been part of that committee for quite a while. And I don't know if it's permitted, but I'll end my answer this way, that I would rather know what you think we should do as a citizen of Hanson, as a voter, as a taxpayer, as a person that's been up there. doing the groundwork.
Thank you.
Okay. So I agree with actually a lot of what these two gentlemen just said, but being on community preservation, I've met with you guys a little bit. I kind of get where you're going with this. I would really like to see this taken to the next step, which I understood that this current Board of Selectmen were going to do, which was to have you guys sort of package up some recommendations and offer them up to the voters to have them decide what resonates with them. But me personally, I definitely would like to see some component of a park up there. If there is a way to make money, I'd be all for that, although I'm highly doubtful about any ability to develop up there, given what happened with Barron Partners and the type of soil that's up there. But that's above my pay grade. I'm not an expert in soil or construction or any of that stuff. But I'd love to see like a solar farm, something like that up there. But really, I would like to hear what the voters want to have up there. But anecdotally, I think your surveys came back, you guys did a survey, and I think you got a lot of feedback on the Plymouth County Reuse Committee that people wanted it to be some kind of component of open space up there. Community Preservation did a similar survey. We got that same feedback. And that's the sense I'm getting, but I'd love to see it validated by a vote.
Thank you, Laura. Mr. Scott?
Yes. Going back in history, I served on the Board of Health during the time that Barron Partners had either purchased or got involved with the town on that. The issue of septic came up, and they brought to us a issue by subdividing the property of putting two separate septic systems there. We deferred it to the Department of Environmental Protection, and they came back to us and they said, no, that would not be acceptable because of the nature of the soil. What they recommend that would work just fine up there was a sewage treatment plant. Because of that cost, Barron felt that they couldn't go forward with the project, and I don't know if we were the catalyst in that, but it didn't go forward. They didn't have the funding, they meaning Barron, did not have the funding to move forward. But I take exception to what people are saying about the soil up there. We know the soil is bad for drainage and what have you. But with the new technology that they've got with septic systems nowadays, that may be well addressed, or if a bigger facility should choose to go in there, they could address a sewage treatment facility and it would work just fine. The hospital ran with a sewage treatment facility for many, many years. I think our committee that we've appointed has done a great job. They've brought a number of ideas to us that are all very good ideas. I'd like to see something, maybe we could do a combination of things. Maybe some of that land could be given to Habitat for Humanity for a home. What that might generate is obviously a home being built there, but then ultimately a little bit of money coming back to the tax rolls. But there may be even a developer that may want to consider part of it. Parks, fields, trails, the Bay Colony folks would love to see their trail continue through there. So there's a lot of great ideas, but you just can't throw it out. What do the townsfolk want? You're listening to what they tell you. I'm in favor of all of them, basically, but we've got to come up with some ideas. We've moved a long ways. We've got the hospital torn down, so the property is way more viable now than it was in the past.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is for Mr. Hickey and the rest of the committee. Mr. Young?
Come up here because I have a very, very weak voice.
Yeah, right, Chris.
I just don't project very well. Speaking as someone who is leaving the Board of Selectmen, Bruce Young, 594 Indian Head Street, Hanson, Massachusetts. Speaking as somebody who served on the Board of Selectmen for 3 terms and is now leaving, I have one question that involves contracts. As you know, the Board of Selectmen negotiates many contracts. They negotiate contracts for town officials. They negotiate contracts for collective bargaining. In my experience, I had one particular problem with a contract, and the board had a particular problem with a contract that had been negotiated by the prior board, and it basically left our board and future boards in a position where we could not terminate a town administrator because of the way his contract had been negotiated, even if he had engaged in very egregious and malicious behavior, without sending him down the road with at least 6 months' salary and extended benefits. okay? Not only that, but the contract that had been negotiated for that particular town administrator had taken away all the town's protection for indemnification, meaning prior town administrators had been given an indemnification limit of $1 million on any malicious or egregious behavior and even civil rights violations of a malicious and egregious behavior that they would not be defended on or paid, and if they had been, if any charges had been brought, I'm getting to it. I'm almost there. Okay, but obviously I had to preface this with it. Okay.
There's no question, Joe.
We're even. His was even a little longer.
Go ahead, Bruce. I'm sorry.
The $1 million limit on indemnification under 258 had been eliminated. So no matter what this person did, we were on the hook for $10 million, $100 million, whatever it was. Okay, that had been eliminated. I want to know what you would do to make sure that that type of situation does not exist for your board and for prior boards to put future boards in that particular position. What procedures would you take in order to avoid that? There's a variety of procedures you could take to do that, but I'm just trying to hear from this board what procedures you would take to avoid that situation happening in the future.
Mr. Hickey.
Thanks for that question.
I wanted to ask it to Mr. Egan, but I can't.
Well, we're
Mary
getting
Ann.
there. We're getting there.
Mary Ann, hold up the cat. Wow, okay. As an elected official, as a selectman, I don't let that happen. I know it must be a very difficult process to find a town administrator to take control, to sit here every Tuesday night with the five of you, but I could not be part of that kind of contract. If that needed to be in the contract, that person is not hired. To me, it's that simple. You cannot let one employee hold the town hostage. Absolutely, I would not hire that person.
Thank you, Mr. Hickey. Laura?
Yep, so I have done a fair amount of contract negotiation in my career. It's actually, I spent 5 years negotiating contracts. And what I would recommend is that the Board of Selectmen have a punch list of provisions that have to be included in every contract that we sign. Our absolute, we will not cave on these things. Anybody that negotiates contracts has those. There's some wiggle room on some provisions, but the indemnification certainly wouldn't be anything that I would be comfortable doing, because frankly, it puts the town at risk, and we're in this role to protect the town and to look out for the town's interests, so I would not have waived that. I also would have to question where the hell our town council was and why they would have let that contract get executed, but that would be another question, and so I would have a punch list of things that must be included in all contracts going forward. I would make sure that that was on record with the town administrative support staff and with our legal counsel, and I'd make it clear that these are things that we're not going to ever budge on. I don't know the details of the background of this particular situation that's being talked about. Perhaps there were extenuating circumstances. I don't know, but that is how I would approach it, and I wouldn't agree to continue somebody's contract if those provisions were. If I was being held hostage with those provisions.
Thank you. Mr. Scott?
Yes, I've been involved in many contract negotiations, and I think my position would be on our board is to defer to the chapter and section pertaining to that. Indemnification is common with all town jobs, people that you hire. We are indemnified by the Board of Selectmen as long as we stay within the parameters of our job. Police chief, fire chief, the highway surveyor, and town administrator, and that, they all have an indemnification. It appeared that the indemnification that was given to a prior town administrator far extended that. I don't know for sure if it was ever brought before town council, but they are absolutely right. It should go before towns, not only for legality, but proof of wording and all that. And that's what we have done, that I know of, on our board currently in doing that. And I don't know if the former board did that or not, but it appears that they may have not.
Thank you. Mr. Egan?
As a member of the former board, I can assure you that it did go to town council. It was approved by town council. It was upon his recommendation that we signed that contract.
Can I ask you to follow up, please?
Is that your answer?
That's
Mr.
my
Egan?
answer. I'm not exactly certain what Mr. Young is talking about. I hope he knows.
Okay.
But the contract was a standard contract. It went to town council, was approved by town council, recommended by town council to the Board of Selectmen that we approve it, and we did.
When we get all the way back around, Bruce, you can reiterate on that. Because we don't want one person to control the whole thing.
Well, I'm not, I'm just
Quick question? Go ahead.
saying it never went to town council.
Okay.
Never went to town, I checked with town council, never went to town.
That's not really a question though, Bruce, that's a statement. Mr. Egan, please don't answer that, we're gonna move on, and if that question comes back up, we'll go
Okay,
back to
all
it.
right.
Okay. There was 4 answers to that. The next question is for Laura. Oh, okay. Come on up, state your name and address, please.
My name is Juvie Hartweg, Cross Street. I've been a resident for 14 years. And actually, as a taxpayer, I would like to thank you all for coming today and taking on this position, because it's certainly a very difficult one. And I know I've just watched on cable for a few minutes, not too much more than that. But I recognize that there are a lot of changes that have to occur in Hanson. I've been a resident for 14 years. We've been fortunate to raise our boys here. It's a quiet, safe community. But we have noticed that businesses have left Hanson and they have not been replaced. So several neighbors and I have had conversations about our commercial tax base. And I was wondering if any of you had a viable strategy, or if it was something that you were thinking of in terms of progress for Hanson, creating an environment for business. How are you going to do that? How are we going to keep the ones that are here? And changing the environment that we currently have that seems to be turning businesses away.
Okay.
So your question is, how will any one of these 4 candidates try to get more businesses attracted to the town of Hanson?
Yes.
Thank you. Laura?
Okay, so my husband and I are small business owners. I completely know what you're talking about. I also am pained when I drive around town and I see all kinds of small businesses closing, and we have empty buildings that don't end up getting filled. And I, about a year and a half ago, along with Josh Singer and the E.D. Jones at Shaw's Plaza, we co-founded the Hanson Business Network, which is a group of small businesses that get together to support each other and help each other grow, a lot of references and that type of thing. We've had the Small Business Administration come and conduct training classes. We've also done training classes amongst our members, because there's just about no talent that we don't have within the group. On using social media, on branding, that type of thing. So I'm doing my part in terms of the small businesses, but, the elephant in the room is Main Street, and what do we do about that? And I'm sure, like everybody here, I'm sure you guys cringe when you drive by that area. I do, because it's continuously going downhill and it doesn't seem to be getting better. In terms of that piece, so I'd keep that Hanson Business Network going and really try to tie it in more with the selectmen. I'd like to see us develop an economic development committee in town that can actively go out and look for grants to revitalize Main Street. And we fit some of the criteria for the mass development to do that. I think that if we work with our town administrator, and we get a good committee together and mass development sees that we've got town support, we would have a good chance of potentially getting a grant there. So those are the things I'd like to do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hickey?
Main Street has been a problem, but I think you would want to look at what our tax rate is for the businesses compared to the other local communities and what they pay there. Whitman is a perfect example. They have Route 18, they have 58 and 27. And every time you drive by that Main Street area, Laura is exactly right. I don't have to drive by there, so I normally don't, but we do need to develop some kind of plan, not only to get new business in, but keep the businesses that we have. We are a small town community, so I certainly don't want to see, like a Target, or a Walmart over there. But we do need to develop some type of business strategy to not only get the new ones to come in, but keep the ones we have. And it's not really an easy question to answer, and it's not going to be done immediately either. That's going to take a long time to get done.
Thank you. Mr. Egan?
There are several viewpoints to take on this issue. First of all, we have to realize that the situation on Main Street is owned by an individual. It is not town property. That individual has to follow and conform and comply with all of the wetland regulations, all the environmental situations that take place. The land that's available for use is very limited. As a result of that, it is difficult to develop that specific piece of property. You're certainly not going to get a Walmart or a big box store there. There isn't enough room for that kind of thing. What the town can do as a town is to allow and to make the permitting process a little bit more conducive to all individuals, not just businesses, but all individuals in terms of applying for a permit and going through the process, and make it less disjointed and a little bit more streamlined so that those people who are seeking development can do so in a much easier manner. The wetland in the area is a specific problem there. I think the other problem that we have to understand is that Hanson is in between most of the major highways in this area. There's not going to be a lot of business development here because it is inaccessible. What we can do is smaller businesses and make their lives miserable by the crazy sign bylaws that we almost have but don't quite have. We really need to look at that. You got to make those kinds of things much more amenable so that small businesses, the type that are, single individuals, can go forward.
Thank you. Mr. Scott?
Yes, the business community, Mr. Egan hit the nail on the head. That property down there is private property. What I would like to see is, and with our boards and what have you in the towns, not to break any rules or bylaws or state laws or anything like that, but be a little more business friendly. We've had a history in town of not being business friendly. We also, as Mr. Egan has said, we're not located. I'm friendly with the Indian Head Water Company. They deliver water all over the South Shore. It takes them sometimes 30 minutes to get to a highway to deliver their product. And that may be a concern of any businesses that try to come here, their mobility and their ability to deliver their products if they sell them outside of the area. the rail system is currently done for passengers and what have you, and they don't do a freight service like they did years ago. That may be a down-the-road alternative and opportunity for businesses. Our board, just like the former boards, have stayed with the consistent tax rate in town. Businesses and residential have stayed the same. We haven't taken a position to reach out for more money from the business community by taxation. So we've tried to work in that direction. I'm not in favor of a committee, another committee in town. I just think we need our boards to be more receptive, more business-friendly, as they can be within the construction, not construction, but the parameters of the laws and what have you. And I think we can move the town forward and encourage people to stay here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Okay. Next question. We're going to start with Mr. Scott. Does anyone have any?
I'll get up if no one's going to ask them. Rich Edgehill, 115 South Street. This would be for all four of you, but Mr. Scott is the only one that can actually probably answer this. In his 3 years as a sitting selectman, how many hours have you spent doing that job? And to the other selectmen, listen, because this is what requires that job.
How many hours? Quite honestly, I have not kept track. We've spent many hours, working with the Highway Building Committee. We've spent other hours working with the Priority Building Committee. All of our board has spent many hours over and above than the Tuesday night meetings here, but I haven't actually kept track of them. But I think our board has acted, involved with a lot of projects outside of what just the duties of coming in here on a Tuesday night are.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. With all due respect, Mr. Edgehill, two of these members have not been on the committee. Would it be fair for me to change your question just a little to these two to say, how many hours do you anticipate spending?
Correct. This just lets them know that there's a lot of time and personal time put into this job.
Are you okay with that?
That's fine.
Okay. Next, Mr. Egan.
I have served on the board. I was here for 9 years. I am aware of the time commitment. It is extensive. I used to say that it'll take as much time as you want to give it, and then demand some more. So, I'm aware of that, and I think anyone who sits at this table is aware of that.
Thank you. Mr. Hickey.
Mr. Edgehill, whatever it takes. I've said it before, I'm not a politician. So my family comes first. My job comes second. This would come third.
Thank you, Mr. Hickey. Laura?
I'm quite aware of the number of hours that are required. I contemplated it at some length, and I am fully prepared to do whatever it takes to get the job done.
Could I add one more thing? No.
Okay. Anyone have another question? We're going to go to Mr. Egan this time.
Betty O'Sullivan, 625 West Washington Street. And I would like all of them to tell me what is the biggest priority this town faces in the next 1 or 2 years, and how do you plan to deal with it?
Mr. Egan?
The biggest priority. I think we still have to resolve our school building issue. I know they want to close McCorn School, and that means moving people into Indian Head School, a building that was found to be somewhat deficient 3 years ago. I know that we've worked on it extensively. There are still several issues that need to be resolved in that building, and I think we should keep that in mind as we move forward, so that we're not just warehousing kids. There's two things that bother me about the situation in terms of moving kids into Indian Head in the middle school and so on, to allow us to close McQuon, because I think it's obvious McQuon needs to go away. It's just, it's outlived its usefulness, let's just leave it at that. It needs to be, we need to go on without the use of McQuon. By doing that, we're using a building that is somewhat old and inadequate in certain educational ways, if not physical ways. Education is not the way it was in 1952. We need a lot more smaller spaces where specialized classes can be held and can take place. That wasn't the case in 1952. So my major concern in terms of where this town wants to go in the next several years would be it would be my one priority. We need to take care of our school building issues somehow or another. And I think closing McQuon, moving to Indian Head is a stopgap measure, makes sense, but we need to do something more than that. Don't think it's solved. It's not solved.
Thank you. Laura?
Did she say one or two top issues?
She said one. I only
Oh,
addressed
all right, I
one.
thought you said one or two. I think really, in my mind, the issue that keeps coming up that, I don't know if it's even a completely solvable problem, but it's one that I would like to see us do better at, is the ever-widening, ever-present budget gap that we end up having with the schools every year. And I'm really kind of over it. Think we need to really start having conversations early. We need to really be in tune with one another. It needs to be less combative, less saber-rattling. We need to find ways that we can be more efficient, both as a school district and as a town, and try to use our existing resources more efficiently. And wherever possible, leverage scales of economy. I guess, so schools, yes, I guess is kind of the big issue, not just a selectman's job to solve. It's, of course, we've got a school committee too. In my mind, I guess maybe what's going to happen to McQuon. So yes, housing the kids and what's going to happen there, that's important. But what are we going to do with McQuon? Are we going to sell it? Are we going to lease it out? And all of these decisions have potential pitfall. I was going to say, I'm already red. I haven't even gotten yellow. So I think probably what we need to do with McQuon overall would be the hottest button, just because it's imminent. It's going to be 2018, so.
Thank you. Mr. Scott?
I think we all kind of agree about the schools, that it is an issue that has to be addressed. The funding aspects that come up every year are unsustainable. They're non-actionable. We cannot continue to reach to the taxpayers to fund this. Senator Kane in Boston has presented a bill, I don't know if it'll get any traction or not, estimating close to a $2 billion shortfall statewide in school funding. And it was in 1993 that they enacted the school funding laws. The state has got to take a real hard look at that. I think one of the biggest issues that I see on this wrangling over the school everything is the school district lost trust when they brought the new school to us for a number of issues, people are saying. I agree with that in part. I think we've got to work at that. We've got to work at building that trust once again. If there was another override this year, I can't say what would have happened, but it probably would have got voted down like it did last year. There's a sentiment in the town, and it's not just the old people or the young people that can't afford it, but I think there's, again, in my opinion, just a lack of trust, and I would be more than happy to try to rebuild that trust with the school folks and see whether we could get act together and move the schools forward. But it is one of our main, it's the tail wagging the dog. Every year it's the schools, and it's only the schools that affect the whole town budget. We used to joke in police work that the schools get the cake and the police and fire get the crumbs. And that's the way it's been for years. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hickey?
I'm going to go with the transfer station, Bob. I think that's biggest problem. Actually, we've already said it. It's the schools, and it's education. Education has to be the most important thing. I wanted to use one quote today, and I'm going to use it from a children's author, John Green. He supports public education because he does not want to be surrounded by stupid people. And the schools have to be the most important thing in our town. Now, what's going to happen with McQuon, I don't think any one of us can actually say. It's going to close. It's going to take some money off the budget, but it's not going to take off the money that people think it's going to take off, because there's a cost to everything that's going to be done. Just the closing of the school. I think Ernie Sandlitz said it at a school committee meeting, that it's going to be $35,000 or right around there just to close the school. So it has to be education in the town. It has to be McQuon. That has to be our most important thing. But one of the reasons it's being closed is because the population of the school children in town has gotten smaller. So they'll be able to put up the 5th grade class up at the middle school. So, combine that with building, you finally held a card up for me, Marion, thank you. Combining that with building a new playground or walking parks or soccer fields at either one of those other two places, whether it's Plymouth County Hospital or at the lighting facility, we don't have enough children in town to build new parks and new playgrounds for them. Education has to be the #1 priority.
Thank you. Okay. Next question. Anyone else but Mr. Campbell? And I'm not. No, anybody that hasn't already asked a question, Joe, I'm not.
No, we gotta go full circle eventually.
Yeah, does anyone else have anything? We'll go right to Mr. Campbell and we'll go to Mary Ann. Seems like we're winding down, and I think all of these questions are fabulous. I want to thank everyone in the crowd for thoughtfulness about the questions to the candidates. I think you're hearing a great cross-section of what your potentials are for the next people on the Board of Selectmen, so I want to thank you in advance for that. You're doing a fabulous job. Mr. Campbell.
Yes, he's only allowed 2 minutes.
Thank you for my second question. I appreciate it. Joe Campbell, 150 Woodbine Ave. Kind of adding to the priorities of town. Physical priorities is great. Everybody's talking about education. I think that one of the biggest things that we have in town as a problem, especially among the 6,000 voters that we have, 10,000 citizens, 6,000 voters, is a division. I certainly think that the town is in a bad way divided over many things. The school project, that's so 2011, if everybody doesn't know. My question to the candidates is, how are you going to build on your relationship with the existing administration? 2 seats available, there are 3 sitting members, as well as building relationships with the other administration in town administrative, the boards, and the folks that work here inside the town hall. So how are you going to move forward and bring cohesiveness back to the town? Thanks again.
Mr. Hickey, you're up.
Okay. I think I said that in my opening statement, Joe, that I want to be your voice and her voice and their voices. The existing administration is going to have to work with me, because it's not going to be politics as usual, the way it's been in the past. I'm not going to let that happen. That's why I'm here, which gives me the opportunity, because I wanted to throw a little extra onto Mr. Edgehill's question. I'll be honest with you. The first thing I looked up to being a selectman in the town of Hanson was how much I would get paid. And when I found out it was 0, I couldn't believe it. Yet I'm sitting here today because I want to hear what you have to say and what other people in the town have to say. And I'm going to make sure it's not politics as usual anymore.
Mr. Scott.
With regards to, talking about politics as usual, I think our board has done a lot in moving the town forward. It hasn't been, there has been some talk at times, but most of the talk was stating facts and moving a lot of issues forward. We've been able to accomplish things. Whether the other board chose to do it or not, they didn't. We got the Indian Head School fixed. We got the buckets out of the McQuon School and a temporary fix to be able to utilize that. We got the hospital moved forward. Every town meeting we got up at, there would always be someone get, what are you going to do about the hospital? Well, we finally did something. We've got an excellent committee. We are moving forward. We've moved forward a lot of things in the town.
Thank you. Laura?
And can I just circle back? Your question was, what would you do to make everybody work together and bring
What are you going to bring to the new administration?
Okay. And I think how could you work with the current board, et cetera, et cetera? Okay. I mean, I'm a frequent attender at the Board of Selectmen meetings. I work with them already on, you know, whether it's things for the food pantry or community preservation or whatever. As part of community preservation, I'm on a wonderful committee that's got people from planning and, you know, recreation and conservation and housing and historic. So, you know, I meet with the people up at Camp Kawani. You know, I think we've got a great group of volunteers. I anticipate supporting them, doing the great work that they're doing. And, you know, if people go astray, having a conversation and saying we're kind of hoping that you guys were gonna take this direction or whatever. No public floggings, but I you know, I really see the Board of Selectmen as supporting what the appointed committees do and the elected committees do, and also encouraging people to break down. We have this I'm in my swim lane mentality sometimes, you know, like I'm on such and such a committee, you know, and I don't see a lot of cross-pollination between the committees. That's one of the things I love about community preservation is we get talking and people start sharing ideas, and you can really see that there's power in sharing ideas. So I'd really like to help foster more of that happening, and see ways that as a Board of Selectmen we can pull more people into some of those processes.
Thank you. Mr. Egan?
I think probably the best way to conduct yourself as a member of the Board of Selectmen is you have to be open. You have to be real. You have to be factual. Information is a great motivator. You present people with information, present people with facts, let them draw their conclusions. But it's important to be open in procuring those facts. You can't just spout off. One of the reasons, this is a very personal thing for me to say, but one of the reasons I'm running for this office is it makes me a better person. It makes me stop my mouth and listen to what it is you have to say. And I miss that. That's one of the reasons why I decided to run again, is because I like listening to people. I like listening to the various ideas that you have and that you would like to see implemented from this table. But I also, one of the things we have to realize is the Board of Selectmen is a policy-making board. It should make the policies that, you know, guide the town in certain directions. It's not a hands-on kind of government thing. That we leave to professional people like the town administrator. And those other boards, which have specific interests and duties, are the boards that actually do the work of the town. The selectmen just kind of, you know, make policy, guide things, and step back. So I think those things are important to keep in mind. I don't have an agenda. My agenda is no agenda. I just try to deal with the problems that come forward. I try to be aware of those kinds of communal decisions that have been made and try to guide us so that we are consistently moving in that direction. That's very important, I think, and that can happen from this table. So those are some of the thoughts I have in terms of how to proceed from this point.
Thank you. Any more questions? Mary Ann?
So I would like to ask a question, forward-looking, just about Camp Kawani and what people would like to see happen in the future. We've had a lot of stuff going on the past year or two about that, and you know, it's been near and dear to my heart. I've been on plays, I walk and run there, so I would just like to hear what each of you, I guess I'd like to frame it in terms of what your hopes are for Camp Kiwanee and what kind of ideas you would put forward.
Laura?
Okay. I, too, am a lover of Camp Kiwanee. I think it's a very important resource for the town, community resource. And in terms of the future, I think it's awesome that we've got a recreation director. I think that's going to take a lot of burden off of the Recreation Commission. That is such a multi-layered responsibility for a commission to have. You've got the beach, you've got, you had the plays, you had the weddings, you had the cabins, it's a lot for one group to have. So it's good that we've got somebody that's going to be professional and up there helping them. What I'd like to see from them going forward would be 4 or 5 community-wide events, like similar to what we're having with the holiday festival, but, maybe like an Easter egg hunt or Halloween thing, whatever, but something where all age groups, all walks of life can come together. It's something that we really are lacking in Hanson, and I see it a lot in the fundraisers that I put together, that people are just hungry for those opportunities to come together and connect with each other. So I'd like to see that. Obviously, I want to see it be self-sustaining, and I think the weddings go a long way towards doing that. But I don't want the self-sustaining part to be all obsessing and all encompassing. I think it's important, but we need to remember that the community decided to keep Camp Kiwanee for the citizens. So I'd also like to see us find ways to make more money during the day, and I'd like to bring back the drama program. I know I might be dreaming on that one, but I really would like to see that happen. So that's what I'd like to see for the future.
Thank you. Mr. Scott?
Yes, I was fortunate. I was on the little committee appointed by the Board of Selectmen to reach out for people to apply for the director's job at Camp Kiwanee. We think we've hired a person that is coming on board with a tremendous amount of experience. She's been a little over a month now. Mary Beth McKay is her name. She's professional. Her former duties were running the Ted Williams camp in Lakeville. And what impressed us a lot with her is at the Ted Williams camp, they did a little bit of everything. They had community involvement. They had functions. They also reached out to the business community to do some of their off-site type of meetings and what have you there. So she really developed a lot of that. And that just goes hand in hand with what people are saying about that. We hired her. I hope she will bring a balanced approach to the camp and include all of it. Maybe get back to some of the drama instance, get back to the family events there'll be wedding planning and event planning and stuff like that will bring some revenue to the town, but again, back to the balanced approach and trying to make the camp what I guess everybody would like it to be. And I think she will do a good job for us, so I'm happy to see that.
Mr. Egan? Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Camp Kiwanee is an asset of the town. I think the town should play a predominant role in what happens there and how it's used and what uses are selected to be dominant. I think, the wedding thing is nice and that provides some income and so on. But I don't think that needs to be the only thing that's considered. There are other things to consider. How we develop, and I would like to see, by the way, us develop Camp Kiwanee in conjunction with the Plymouth County Hospital site, because I don't think we need to duplicate efforts. I think together they can become incredibly fine. And if we could do a performance pavilion and an appropriate facility, let's call it, at the Plymouth County Hospital and take some of the stress off of Camp Kiwanee in terms of time that's demanded for the drama program and put it at Plymouth County, that might be a way to make Camp Kiwanee a little bit more accessible to the types of events that most townspeople seem to be interested in terms of those family-oriented functions. So I think that's a thing that we could consider and develop. But I believe that it's important to keep in mind that Camp Kiwanee should be for the use of the citizens of Hanson. That's the priority, I believe.
Thank you. Mr. Hickey?
I was a member of the Recreation Drama Club for 20 years. As a matter of fact, that was the first thing I volunteered to do in town. And every year that we did a play, I wanted to be part of it. It didn't matter the size of the role, whether it was big or small. And if you were part of that, you would know that it didn't matter how old you were, what your size was, how much you wanted to speak or not even have a speaking role. My daughter's first role up there was in Peter and Wendy, a version of Peter Pan, and she was 4 years old and wore wings and was a never bird. We have to get that back. But as a member of the Recreation Commission, I joined in 2014 after doing the plays for 18 years. I wanted to see how it worked from behind the scenes. All I knew was I'd go up there, do the performance, and go home. All four of my kids learned how to swim at Cranberry Cove. 2 of them were lifeguards. So I got involved in the Rec Commission in September of 2014. I lasted a little over 2 years until I resigned as chairman. I was chairman of the Rec Commission for 11 weeks, and I resigned. I resigned because my voice was not being heard. As a citizen of this town, I had to resign my position, and the rest of the Recreation Commission followed behind me. Because of people that lived in this town, we could not be heard by the selectmen. That's why I'm here today. I want to make sure that anyone that has anything to say gets a chance to voice their opinion, or at least be heard.
Thank you, Mr. Hickey. Do we have any other questions? Come on up.
388 McQuon Street. It was mentioned that the population of the children has gone down in the schools, and I guess my question is, has the population of the town gone down in general, or are we just not attracting younger families to the town? And if, I just wanted to get some opinions on that, and if the town needs some revitalizing overall as an attractive town to live in.
Mr. Hickey?
Thanks. The second thing I volunteered to do was coach. I coached all 4 of my children. When my youngest, Brianne, got into high school, we actually started a program for high school girls in softball. I coached everything, but I ran softball in town for 10 years with a lot of help from my friends and people that wanted to have a decent place for the girls to play softball. We developed LZ Thomas into a better field than it was when we took it over. I can only speak for the time that I ran the program, but we had 7 in-town softball teams with girls grades 6, 7, and 8. So we never left the town to play. And we used Robinson Street and the field at the middle school. They have 1 team now that strictly uses LZ, and they travel to 5 other towns to play. It is because the population of that age group has dropped, because the population of Hanson is getting older. And we've all said it, and we go around the room. I've been in town 26 years. The lady that spoke earlier has been in town for 14 years. The population's getting older, which is great. Some of the kids, as grown-ups now, are moving back, but they're adults. And, hopefully they come back with a young family, but it's not that way. There's a member of the fire department who looked on Goldwyn Drive to buy a house because that person wanted to live in Hanson. They live on the Pembroke-Duxbury line because they couldn't afford Hanson, because the house needed so much more work than the one that they were able to get. I'm all done, Mary Ann. Don't hold that card.
Thanks, Jim. Mr. Egan?
Why is the population decreasing? I don't know. I can tell you a couple of facts. I love facts. There was a time when I was in school, and I know that's a long time ago, but when I was in school, over 40% of the population had children in school. You know what the percentage is now? 17. Okay? There's certain demographic things that are at play here. First of all, people are having less children. Now, I've done my share there. I've had 7, and they all went to our schools. I can't, well, I don't know if I can or can't, but I don't want to do any more of that. This is a bedroom community, and I think we have to realize that. I know we keep trying to sell ourselves as a lot of other things, but basically, when you look at it in terms of demographics, it's a bedroom community. We better realize it, and we better capitalize on those things that bedroom communities capitalize on and what they need to provide for their citizens. And one of those things, of course, is a quality educational system. So those things come to mind. The fact that I can't read my own writing, that I jotted down an idea here, is a little annoying. But the fact exists that school-age population is decreasing. Hanson, in and of itself, has a tendency for the age to accelerate or to increase. We are an old town, if you want to put it that way. What we can do to attract young people, we have to start thinking a little bit more creatively about what it is they want and how we get it to them. And one of those things, I believe, would be a high-quality educational system. We can't fund our school system from 7th from the bottom in the state and still be a successful bedroom community, and I'm sorry about running over.
Jim, I didn't know you had 7 kids. I'm sending you a bill.
Don't send me a bill, send me some sympathy card or something.
Mr.
Actually,
Scott.
Yes. You know, with regards, regarding the population and the trend in that, it seems to be pretty much with a lot of the small towns are having similar type of situations. We don't know if there's any solution to it. We have a lower tax rate than some of the towns, so that may make us a little bit advantageous to people moving here. I think our kids get a pretty darn good education because of the quality of the teachers we have. And that to me is of utmost importance, not the funding and the buildings and all. And statistics recently have shown there is no relationship between school funding and student achievement. That comes from your teachers. My wife was a professional teacher for 35 years. She has a doctorate. She was a reading specialist for 17 of those years. We wholeheartedly support education. And both my sons are college graduates. At no cost to them, we put them through school. So we really are in favor of education, and I think offering a good education in your town is very important to attract people to come here.
Thank you. Laura?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. I don't know, obviously birth rates are down all across the nation, across Massachusetts. Cost of living is high. I don't know that the little hamlet of Hanson can necessarily turn that around. You know, it's a nationwide trend, but certainly we want to remain attractive for young families, and having good schools would be part of that. But as part of the Community Preservation Master Plan, our consultant did some demographic information for us, and it was really interesting because quite mind-blowing, actually. One of the things that she told us is that for the first time ever, Hanson right now, the average price of a home, and this was 6 months ago, now all bets are off now in this market, but that's the average price of a condo versus a home. The condos are actually more expensive in Hanson. And the reason that this is happening is because we've got a lot of the high-end condos coming in. Now, I'm not saying whether this is bad or good, but those tend to be the over 55 condos. And so we are attracting older people to town. And so it's likely with the lower birth rates and this trend of attracting older people to town that probably we're not going to turn this, ship around and have, more younger people. I think what's important is not so much whether we, have more younger people, especially in the face of this being a nationwide trend, but that we are addressing the needs of the children and the seniors alike, and that we're making sure that we're taking a balanced approach in the things that we do so that everybody can thrive in our community.
Thank you, Laura. Well, as you can see, we've had a broad spectrum of questions, and I think the audience has done fabulous. But I want to thank these 4 candidates for coming forward, running for an office. There's only 2 seats. They've all answered questions fabulously. They've done a great job. I want to thank all of you. We're going to move to the ending moment question of closing out. Thank you all. How about a big round of applause? All right. Mr. Scott, would you like to give a closing statement?
Yes, if I may. I've enjoyed being on the Board of Selectmen. I didn't give a lot of thought to it before I ran. I was quite concerned with the leadership in our town at the way things were going. The new school was a big issue, and not being affordable and things like that. So at that time, I decided to run, and I was successful in doing so. Just to go back, you always get the history lessons and everything, but I used to go to Camp Kewanee as a kid until the cops showed up, because it was a girls' camp. The neighborhood, I lived adjacent to it. The Cranberry Bogs were an easy access to the camp, and we didn't do anything real bad, but we were shooed out oftentimes. So, there's a tremendous amount of history, and I really love the town of Hanson. Grew up here. My dad ran a hayride business here for 30 years. Not that that has anything to do with town politics, but he loved the children of the town. He took all of the different camps, including Kewanee, Camp Wampatuck on the Hill, and entertained them and all that. So we started Pee Wee football in Hanson. Mrs. Elms, Dave Libby, and myself and her husband started Pee Wee football in the 60s. So it just didn't start in the 80s and not that the people that have contributed their time. We've done that. I've coached Little League. I've coached baseball, Little League baseball. I've coached football and all that. But I think what's happened is that we've been accomplished an awful lot in the last 3 years that I've been on, I think, in moving the town forward. We sit here on evenings and all that, and I look around the audience and I watch the people glaring at us that obviously apparently not happy with what we did or the fact that maybe they lost an election. But the bottom line is we've done a darn good job for this town. I'd like to continue to do so. We've brought projects forward. We've completed some projects. We've addressed what may be the needs of a highway department, but that'll be decided by the townsfolk, not by a 5-member board. And I'd like to move that forward in some unfinished business. We've brought a professional contract to the town for our highway surveyor that protects our town and protects the highway surveyor or whoever holds that position. So we've done an awful lot. And if you feel that I've done a good job and you don't want to go back to the old bully backdoor politics, I'd like your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Egan.
Government, especially local government, should be a coming together of all people to make our common goals, needs, and desires a reality. It's sometimes difficult to remember that there's much more that unites us than separates us. But we have to work in that direction. We have to come together. We have to forge a common vision of what we want our town to be. I don't want to be part of the first generation of Americans to do less. Okay? I don't want to offer less anything. Less jobs, less educational opportunity, less clean water, less freedom, less hope to our own children. The trust that our parents gave to us to transmit to our children is very close to being violated, and I think we have to pay some attention to that. I would like to help make government the high, noble enterprise that the ancient Greeks envisioned at Athens. I believe we can do that here. I think it's possible to do that in this town and that we can create that kind of government in this town, and I think we can start doing that right now. Hanson's facing several significant decisions in the immediate future. school department funding, highway department facility upgrades, development of the former Plymouth County Hospital site. We've all talked about some of these things this afternoon. We also have severe budgetary constraints every single year. These things have to be dealt with. I believe forward-looking, clear-thinking, problem-solving skills will be required to deal successfully with these and other anticipated and unanticipated problems that are going to come up. Over the last decade, I have compiled that kind of a record. I do not have an agenda. I offer only experience and a hard-working ethic to get problems solved. I believe the citizens of Hanson need to elect a selectman who is reasonable and thoughtful, a selectman who will listen and respond to the needs of the town, a selectman who will provide experience, leadership, and involvement in the years ahead. Of course, I'm not going to be able to do all those things, but I would love the opportunity to fully engage myself in those challenges and try to achieve those all-important goals. And I am asking you to give me that opportunity as your selectman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Mr. Hickey.
There's a danger in being an elected official. The danger is one of attitude, of now I'm sitting on this side of the table. I know what's best for the town, and I don't need to listen to you, the citizens, the residents, the volunteers, the voters. In this campaign, I have promised you, the citizens of Hanson, to be your voice on the Board of Selectmen. I make this promise as well. Before I use that voice, I will be your best and most attentive listener. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hickey. Laura, you started first, so you
Yes.
end the day.
How lovely. Hanson is at a critical crossroads right now. We've got a lot of issues that are coming before us. Several of these gentlemen have already listed them. You kind of all know what they are because you're sitting here in these chairs and you're amongst the more engaged citizens in town. But we're looking at Plymouth County Hospital, McQuon, light control, the budget gap, the list goes on. We really need people that are going to be in the Board of Selectmen who can work with everybody in the town, who are going to listen to what the voters want and are going to check their egos at the door and really be here for the right reason, which is to be a public servant. I've got the skills and the experience, both professionally and in my community engagement. I feel quite confident that I'd be able to do this job, and I'm asking on May 20th that you vote for me.
Thank you, Laura. I want to thank again everyone at this table. You've heard quite a cross-section of questions, quite a cross-section of answers. And I want to thank all of you, not just the candidates, but everybody that's here today. We have one more person to vote for, and that would be the moderator. And we only have one candidate running. His name is Sean Keeley. He is a candidate for re-election, so please consider him. I want to remind everyone who might be watching, Election Day is May 20th. Come out and vote. Don't let a small amount of people, the saddest thing that goes on in democracy is we have such a small amount of people come out and vote because there's not any major issues. It's very similar to how we run town meeting. We sit there to try to get a quorum, and we get to 151 or whatever we need, and boom, we're off and running. Same thing. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching, come out and vote. You can see that you have 4 engaged candidates. Please come out and vote. Thank you very much for watching.
Time for the elections. If you'd announced that, the time of the elections.
10 to 4.
10 to 5.
It starts at 10 a.m. to 10 to 5 on May 20th. 10 a.m. to 5, McQuon School. So please come and vote. Thank you all for participating. It's been a great day. Thank you.